Hi there, and welcome to another episode of TPI Talks Crew Call. Once again, we are joined by Jacob from Liverpool.
Hello.
And on today's show, we have Duncan and Andrew. And I don't actually know where you're calling in from, guys, so would you like to introduce yourselves to the viewers at home? Start with you, Andrew.
Hi, Andrew Thornton here, Production Manager with Shawn Mendes, and I am calling from Bath.
Yes, and hi, I'm Duncan Ladkin, Stage Manager for Shawn Mendes, calling from Brighton.
So now both me and Jacob have met you on the road a couple of times, actually, with the Shawn Mendes crew. But before we kind of go into that kind of side of things, how have you been in lockdown for the last 4 months?
Well, Duncan's hair colour's changed.
Drastically,
Yeah.
just here. Yeah, it's been all right, mate. Got a puppy at the end of February. That's kept me pretty busy. That's about it, really. Yeah. Otherwise, all good, you know.
I think that is the general response to that question from anyone. Is like, yeah, fine.
Yeah,
I think
great.
that's the general sentiment. Yeah, I mean, yeah, same for me. As we were saying earlier, it has been nice to be at home all this time. It's been unusual for the people in my house to have me at home for so long, and it's been, good in those ways. Of course, like it's been amazing to spend all this time with my family. But yeah, we're all sort of just, where are we going? How are we getting out of this? Where are we going next? Is everyone going to survive the other side? What is the new normal, or when do we get back to the old normal? Mm-hmm. So yeah, confusing and worrying time. I've been lucky to have some work to do, which I could do from home, and and some small little live stream shows and so on. So I have had some things to do, but yeah, it's been a strange time for sure.
Totally.
What's the name of the puppy?
Oh, the puppy?
Yeah,
That's right. There we go. That's what the P stands for in TPI. I knew it. Peanut. Peanut's the name of the pup. Whereas, usually on a Zoom call, she turns into some sort of possessed devil dog, yapping everywhere. Actually, she's quite calm at the moment.
That's good.
And asleep. This is great. We should. Yeah. She's a wowzer, in case you're wondering. Half Westie, half miniature Schnauzer.
That's a wowzer,
because that's the thing. Yeah. She referred to her as a puppy. It's just like, yeah, she's great. But no, yeah, so she's all right. She's been. Oh, yeah. I've never had any children, so the puppy is the closest thing. So it's a bit like, oh, we need feeding again.
Might be easier, actually, apparently.
Well, so I've heard, but I don't know. I don't know.
So I do want to kind of get into some of the things you're talking about there, Andrew, in terms of kind of the streaming shows, but
yeah,
let's go to Shawn Mendes for a second.
Yeah.
I kind of want to get both your kind of history of how did you enter this tour? Because had you worked with each other before this kind of massive project came around? Because you've been with him for how long now, Andrew? Like four years?
Yeah, so I started with Shawn. I met him, and we as a company sort of started pitching the concept of 24/7 anyway to him, and to working with him at the end of 2015. So it's been a while. And then we did our first show with him beginning of 2016, which was initially we were just working on TV promo with him. So did a People's Choice Awards performance with him in January 2016, which was our first sort of thing. And then we started talking about touring with him. And at that point, he'd only really been out on the road on his own. Just him, acoustic guitar, a sound guy, and a tour manager. So we started he had some dates coming up. So so that's when we started working with him, and then went from doing a couple of smaller shows, and then a Radio City Music Hall special with him, and then into a European tour that year. And it started to grow very quickly from what was originally pitched to us as a sort of 2-bus and a trailer kind of tour of Europe. That ended up adding some trucks and shows getting upgraded, that kind of trajectory where you go from thinking it's clubs, and if a venue can be upgraded, it is. And so 2016 was a really crazy year with him, of going from who's Shawn Mendes to, suddenly have an artist who was selling out venues way bigger than were booked. And so it was a pretty exciting year. And that all sort of led through to his first proper tour in 2017, which is when Duncan joined the team.
Right.
But me and Duncan, we've worked together for a long time. Now, Duncan, when was your first? So Duncan's first gig with me was doing backline on the Sugar Babes, right?
Yeah. And if you know what, we did do some. Yeah, that was our first gig, official gig with 24/7. But there was a couple of gigs we did at the Water Rats. Do you remember, like years ago?
With Paul.
Yeah, man. Yeah, Paul Steele.
Yeah.
Paul Steele. I mean, that must have been like 2007. Back when I was.
Right. So our connection is through a friend of ours, Julian Dean, who was guitar player in the band Top Loader. I don't know if everyone remembers.
Oh yeah.
That was my first band. Like I was 21 or something, 20 when I started working for them. That was my first gig, driving the van, tour managing, doing sound. That was my sort of into the industry, was that band that I saw out there sort of whole touring career for 5 years until they broke up. So that was my introduction to the touring world, and stay good friends with Julian. And anyway, you met. How did you know Julian? From
man.
him, right?
Yeah. So I went to the Brighton Institute of Modern Music about years ago when I spent a couple of years of playing guitar, and I realised I should be a lot better at guitar, obviously, but not due to their teaching, probably just more due to me. But then I started. So I met him there. He was one of the teachers there for a brief period, and then he kind of encouraged me to do this. Julian, encouraged me to do this. It was like the tour management and sound engineering course that they just started. So I was like, yeah, all right, that sounds great, which we did, and then Julian was also doing some music management for a couple of bands at the time, the Excerpts and Paul Steele, these guys, and then just started going on tour with bands of his, being a guitar tech and general whatever tech for Paul Steele, and tour managing for the Excerpts and stuff like that. And then that's how we met. And then I can't fully remember the con that must have been put on you, Andrew, to employ me for the Sugar Babes, of course. But
I think it was just desperation, Duncan, to find someone available. I would imagine.
Which is, I was available. Well, I cancelled my weekends of work, obviously.
As well, obviously, but yeah. So that was our first thing together, and then we did lots of touring together with you in a backline position. So we, Bessie J and The Wanted for a good long time.
Yeah. Ella Henderson. Did a bit of that. I didn't do a huge bit. Yeah.
But yeah, it was then. We'd been talking during 2016. You'd been doing some bigger stage management work, and we're looking to do more of that. And so anyway, in 2017, we needed someone else to join the team, and I knew Duncan would fit in well with all the people we had on that gig so far. And Shawn is very keen on employing people that he's going to get on with, and he quite unusually likes to know all the crew. Even last year, he would know everybody in the entire crew. He's a pretty friendly chap.
Yeah, it's such a heartening thing seeing when we're doing. Sorry, I didn't mean to spit. When you're doing like a load in, and he kind of just appears. It's like, hi mate, and he's like just greeting basically everyone. It's like, wow.
Yeah, he's pretty good actually. He likes an early start of the day, so he'll often, it's not unusual to see Shawn wander in during the markup.
Okay.
So I knew Duncan would fit in anyway, with everyone that was coming to join us that year, and that was coming back from the year before. Great opportunity for both of us to work on what was an expanding production at that point. For me, that year was probably as big as any production I'd worked on really up to that point, and only getting bigger. So anyway, so Duncan joined us then, and we did that full world tour in 2017, which was very successful. 2018, I made a terrible clerical error by allowing Duncan to go and work on another job after thinking we were having a quiet year in the Shawn Mendes camp. That turned out to be not the case. So we bimbled through 2018 without Duncan, and then obviously Duncan re-joined last year for the even bigger and better Shawn Mendes World Tour.
And we can obviously talk now, Andrew, of course, because it's the first time we've spoken since December when it finished.
It's been really awkward if you guys hadn't spoken in like months and months. They're coming together.
No, of course not.
Anyway, so that's the potted history of me and Duncan. Anyway.
Yeah. So at one point now, because you are like a global sort of firm now, 24/7 as like a brand. What other artists are on the books which are Canadian, transatlantic, US based?
Shawn's our only Canadian artist, I should say.
Okay.
But I'd say we have We have a small office in LA run by another Andrew Dobbins. And out of that office, I'd say we do more TV and promo style work. So we have a lot of clients there who we might not do their touring, but we do all their TV appearances, award shows and all that kind of stuff. And we are working with quite a lot of new clients there all the time to try and take on touring work there as well. And then the UK is still slightly the opposite of that. We still do a lot of TV promotions here, but our clients in the UK tend to be full service clients where we do touring and promotions and so on.
In terms of back on Shawn Mendes again, I suppose this will be the first time both of you have been a part of a camp or with an artist where he's just kind of had that rocket ship success from sort of not zero to hero, but I suppose you just didn't expect it to take off to such like the levels it has done. So what was that experience like for both of you?
Well, yeah, well, it's certainly. I think so. Duncan joined it when he was somewhere in between zero and hero. I mean, he was hero-ish in 2017. I would say.
Heroic.
But certainly when I joined it, obviously I remember, John, my boss at 24/7 was like, "Oh, we've got this thing with Shawn Mendes," and I was like, "Who's Shawn Mendes?" But and so he was an unknown at that point. But yeah, it was an incredibly speedy rise to success in 2016, certainly. And one of those the diary never stayed still. Nothing stayed confirmed. Everything was changing. There was new opportunities every week. Just when you thought you had a week off, there'd be. It was at that point as a career where management say yes to everything, rightly so, and you just find yourself traveling around like a madman trying to keep up with it all. And then in 2017, that's when it sort of felt fairly established. It was still a new artist. It was still, it was arenas, but and they were sold out, but it was a smaller production and an easier show. But yeah, from then it's just sort of carried on it in an upward scale, and you can't really seem to do anything wrong, which has been amazing to be a part of. It's occasionally, a bit of a whirlwind, makes you feel a bit dizzy, but it's been really, really exciting. And I think for both of us, it's just been nice to constantly working on something that's, in an upward trajectory.
Totally. And, just, going on to that for myself, it's kind of really good because I've joined a lot of camps as like, oh, we need someone, and then I've joined in, and it's when things have been established and it's great. And so it's really been nice to be part of the. I was going to say part of the rise. That may have sounded, but yeah, part of the. I mean,
if we're honest, we've done a couple of projects that when you've joined, it's been the other side of the peak.
Yeah, right. And it's not been down to me.
I'm not saying no one said it was your fault.
The curve didn't flatten because of me, but I will take some blame. It's fine. I
suppose lockdown has brought you've got more time now, I suppose, for periods of reflection. But do you ever kind of look back and go, "Oh my God, I can't believe that happened," and how fast you sort of came along, or do you just roll with the punches kind of thing?
Oh God, I definitely think that. Yeah. Yeah, I think I do remember me and you sort of the night before loading last year, and just because the amount of kit and the amount of trucks had really jumped from 2017.
Yeah,
both of us that sort of night before. I think it was my birthday, right? The night before the loading.
It was.
Yeah, it was. And we were in the pub in Redditch, right, where at Fly By Night. Always where I spend my birthdays. And both of us were just sort of looking at our loading plan and looking at all the kit arriving and looking at the schedule for the day. And I do remember thinking, is this going to be all right? Are we going to be okay? And it had been a turbulent time up until then. We knew we weren't getting the entire show at once when we should have done, and a few design changes had led to some late arrivals and various other things. So it was a turbulent time, and I definitely remember thinking, this is a huge venture. And several times during last year, the Toronto Stadium show at the end of the North American run, and that was the end of 96 days of touring in North America into a stadium show where we had to expand that production to fit that space, and it was being filmed, so there was a huge camera crew involved in that, so working with them at the same time. So that was, and then just to compound that, the loadout was our split of gear to go. Yeah, it was quite a loadout actually. So, and that was
it was.
This lot of gear is going back to suppliers. This lot of gear is getting sea freighted back to the UK to go back to suppliers.
Yeah.
This set of gear is getting air freighted to Asia. This set of gear is going back for local storage in Toronto. It was just the ultimate split of gear. One split of that gear we really couldn't get wrong, because the next time we would see it was the day before a show in Asia somewhere.
Yeah, in Seoul, Korea. Was it South Korea? Yeah,
Seoul. Yeah. So after doing that show, we then had that load. So those times were particularly sort of mad last year, and I left Duncan finishing the stadium loadout while I took the air freight gear to the airport, and then oversaw the palletization.
Great word though, isn't it? Palletization.
Palletization, yeah.
Huge word. Huge
I
word.
believe that's a real word. You might want to
and of course, depalletization at the other end.
That's 100% a real word. So it was definitely moments last year where I think me and Duncan looked at each other and we were like, this is quite an upgrade from the water rats 15 years ago.
Yeah, totally. You know, there's the pinch yourself moments, and you're a bit like,
yeah,
what is this? What are we doing this? You know, and not to be sort of like disparaging about it, but it's more bit like, wow, yeah, all right,
yeah,
let's do it. Okay.
And I will say, not to blow our trumpets, but it all happened. Every show happened. I didn't lose any serious amount of equipment at any point anywhere.
No?
Certainly the result. And all the shows were very successful. We got through it in one piece with our sanity. So yeah, it was a big year for both of us, really. The biggest thing is
definitely
done. And but really exciting. We had a really great team, and we had a really great boss who it was a real pleasure to work for. And we always said that sort of his being such a sort of genuine, real person who was just as happy hanging out with his bandmates as any of the crew, and that really filtered down to everyone. So we did have a good time. It was hard work, but yeah, it was a good year.
Absolutely.
But to bring it to a bit more up to date now, you're kind of working at that kind of level of production, that many trucks. And then obviously you get that call saying that everything basically is grounding to a halt. Could you just talk through where were you both in terms of working? Who were you working with at that time?
So neither of us are on tour actually.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Were we? No,
I was sort of planning to kick back into touring at the end of March.
That's right. Yeah. So after sort of finishing up the tour, Shawn tour finished at the end of December. Uh-huh. January there was a bit of work in sort of stuff still moving around the world and getting back to and sorting out of gear through January a bit, and then taking some downtime. But we were both working with a larger team on a Pussycat Dolls tour, which was going out in March. I was more in a sort of Pussycat Dolls is John, my boss's client. I was just supporting him on a more sort of technical production point of view.
Okay.
But Duncan was going out as stage manager on that. So we were all sort of talking about that tour and working on that and looking at the design as it was shifting around and so we were sort of into that, and I was going to be doing production rehearsals into the first couple of shows, and Duncan was going out on that tour. It took a while for that to actually officially get cancelled, as I remember.
Yes,
we went into lockdown before it was like not happening.
Yeah, totally. What it was like, there was, I think, the lockdown happened. It was like, wow. Going out on tour in a week, so it's just going to get.
I think we forget now. There was that time when it was only going to be 3 weeks.
Yeah,
not anyone remembers that.
Yeah, good point. Yeah,
we're just locking down for 3 weeks to save the NHS, and then we'll be moving on. There was that sort of like, okay, 3 weeks. Oh, all right, well, 3 weeks, and then we're just getting on. Okay, great. But I mean, and here we are. So that's sort of where we're at during lockdown. So yeah, neither of us are actually sort of out on the road. We haven't got any of those kind of stories of like, you know, I was about to load in and
Yeah.
And in terms
Absolutely.
of projects you've been working in sort of during lockdown, I saw a couple of like sort of domestic sets from James Bay and things like that. Could you kind of walk us through some of those projects you're working on?
yeah, so we've so really that first week of lockdown we had like all of our team from the US and from here, and a couple of other freelancers from the sort of design and creative side. We all sort of jumped on a big Zoom call to sort of discuss what might be possible, what to do, or just sort of discussing ideas about how we could maybe think about doing some shows during this time. And when that's a constant now, we sort of put various decks together and ideas about how we do that and pitch those to various people. But we've, I guess we've only really done some of the sort of real simpler versions of those ideas.
Right.
And really it came out of US office, my colleague Andrew Jobbins there, him and one of our regular broadcast mixers and town tech guys, they came up with this idea that we could send one of our playback systems that we have, which are like, we've got all these playback rigs that we own, which are basically a 2U rack that fits inside a Pelican with a laptop, whatever. So we sort of recommissioned a couple of these to be home recording setups.
Okay.
So the idea was you'd send this out to someone's house, an artist's house, in a format that they could set up themselves, with a little ring light to place their iPhone in, and stand for a second camera angle iPhone kind of thing, or use the webcam on the device, and then someone would then remote control into that laptop to operate Pro Tools or Logic, with a little UAD interface and a couple of microphones to do the actual audio record, and then sort of walk the artist through capturing the image via an iPhone, and then getting those files back to us so the video could be edited and the audio could be mixed. Mm-hmm. So yeah, the guys in America sort of came up with this as an idea. So we put together a rack here that we could send out, and yeah, James Bay was our first trial for that. So we've done 3 records from James's home now, which have been really fun actually. So and James is great. We basically get him on Zoom and then talk him through plugging everything else in, getting the camera angle set up, and then record the session. So we did a couple of those where it was just a couple of us and him, with no sort of live element. And then we did one with the Today Show in America where there was a Zoom call with the 2 presenters interviewing him. He then performed a song, and then we delivered a mixed version and some other camera angles to them afterwards. So we've done a few things like that. And then we've done some smaller live stream shows. So I don't know if you know the venue Amira in London Bridge. I wasn't aware of it actually until recently. It was a really great little club. Most importantly, incredible internet as well. Really amazing upload speed. And so we've done. So yeah, we did a live stream event there with James Bay in support of small venues, which was a bit more. This was our first thing with a bit more production. Mm-hmm. Tim Routledge came in and did that with us. I'm sure you guys know Tim well.
Yeah.
So we put a small amount of lighting in there for that, and a simple little audio setup. And then we did a little pre-record with Ella Air there for Sunday brunch in the same venue. And then we did another live stream event with Liam Payne in that venue, which was him and a band. And that was live stream out to a platform called Veeps, which I wasn't aware of either, but that's a ticketed platform where you can host a concert, put it on sale, people buy tickets. They've got a really great tech support team who help you set that up. They just host it. They don't provide the back end for it, but it was really simple, just using OBS, which I learned how to use fairly quickly.
I think we've all learned how to use in the last couple of months.
Yeah, right. Yeah. Honestly, so much video stuff I've learned how to use. Turns out it's not that complicated. So,
what are they on about?
Yeah, I don't know what all the fuss is about. HDMI stuff. Yeah, it's fun. Yeah, no. So obviously some SCART in there as well. But we've learned how to. I've learned how to use OBS and stream to a couple of different platforms. We've got a 24/7 YouTube account now that I've tested out and works. So that all works quite well. Mm-hmm. We've done a few little things via Zoom like this. So we did one with Celeste, which was done out of. So John, my boss, owns a pub in Willesden Green.
All right.
So they implemented out the restaurant there, and we did a little Celeste live stream show. Her, someone on a grand piano and a guitar player, mixed on an SD9 and some nice kit, but effectively mixed down into mono into Zoom. Not the best platform for a live stream, I must say, but everyone's so familiar with it now, obviously, and comfortable with it. It is sort of workable. So we've learned a few things about what's good and what's not. But yeah, so a bunch of stuff like that has been pretty interesting. And as I said, we've got all these other concepts and designs of people we're working with, and everyone's sort of poised, ready to produce really big live streamed events. But I think everyone's fairly nervous about, approving large production budgets at the minute. And promoters obviously very nervous about doing anything that might not turn a profit. Yeah, so we've kept ourselves busy. We've got loads of great ideas. We're just waiting for those people to get a bit braver with live streaming events, really.
And another reason we were kind of quite keen to speak to you two specifically today, especially on like the logistics side, we've been speaking to so many people, and it seems that like in terms of a date people are throwing around, it's like March next year is when we might get to some kind of sense of normality, and that's maybe when a tour of some kind of form could happen. But as two people that kind of do kind of put these shows on and are on the kind of the front end of logistics, in terms of the government policies you've seen already, or just talking to other kind of production managers, what's this going to look like, and what are going to be the steps that you're going to have to take to kind of put a show on?
This is a conversation that's happening a lot, obviously, and I will say my personal conclusion. The first question will be: can we do reduced capacity shows? Of which the answer is almost always no. The financial model of concert touring doesn't work. Just the same argument that all the West End theatres are making. If you can't fill out the theatre, it doesn't work. It's only in that last few % of ticket sales that's where your profit is for everyone. So especially on larger production shows. Therefore, to put on a tour at full capacity and for that to be something that's allowed and that people will be allowed in the venue, we have to be in a position where we're pretty much back to normal anyway.
Right.
So it's not like we've had all these discussions about, well, maybe the crew have to maintain a bubble where they don't interact with everyone else, and we've got a doctor on tour, and where everyone's getting COVID tested before load-in, and all these other sort of concepts. Days off aren't in hotels; they're just somewhere where you can't you maintain this tested, safe bubble that the crew and the band are in. For us to do all that, and then for them to allow full capacity arena shows, doesn't really make any sense to me, because surely if that's allowed, the R rate must have gone down so low, and the number of cases must be so low for that to be allowed, that surely we can just return to normal. Or the chances of us getting ill with many other infectious diseases or getting struck by lightning are all just as likely to happen by then. So let's just move on. Let's just literally not. This isn't a new normal. Let's go back to normal.
Right. Yeah.
So that's really my thought on it. That we just and really for that to happen, I think there has to be a vaccine, or for the infection rate to have gone incredibly low. But I think, I don't know about you, I'm sure looking at all I read the vaccine updates and news a lot, and seems pretty positive at the minute that we're going to have a workable vaccine this year. I don't know if that sounds too optimistic, but I think it sounds very possible. That certainly in the UK and around Europe, we can really think that by the first quarter of next year that we could seriously be vaccinated a large amount of people. And if that's the case, let's just go back to normal and get on with it. That's what I think. And I do think that March seems to be, it's definitely what I'm hearing. I'm seeing some tours going back on sale there at the minute. Obviously the biggest place for touring, the most profitable place for touring, the place everyone wants to be touring on a large scale, currently seems to have the worst handle on this. So my fear is more that I think we'll be back touring in Europe in the first quarter next year. I really do. And I think we'll be touring in a way that feels fairly normal, because as I said, like not only do we have to have full venues for the tour to make financial sense, and this was another question that came up, like can you do without local crew?
Oh my God, was that actually a question?
I mean, it wasn't really a question.
I've got it.
It was a discussion point. You could all just work a lot harder.
Yeah, that's fine. No,
but-
sorry.
So it wasn't really
Sorry.
a question. It was more like local crew. Let's discuss, because that is a whole bunch of people you're going to have to, strangers that we're going to have to interact with every day.
Right.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, but obviously, no. Again, well, no. If we don't have any local crew, then the loading's going to take 3-4 times as long. So that means we're loading in the day before. Okay, well then that financial model that goes out the window again. So every time you look at changing our old normal into something else, it doesn't make any financial sense, because the margins on concert touring only work in its current format.
Yeah.
So we cannot go back on tour like we used to with the same set of rules unless we're back to normal. But I am feeling optimistic about being back to normal in the first quarter of next year in Europe. I mean, Canada, I think will be fine. I was going to say North America, but USA, because Canada's probably in a better off place than we are at the moment. But USA does worry me. So many artists either make most of their money there or want to be touring America. Everyone wants to be big and successful in America. At the minute, it seems a bit nuts. And when it does start up again, obviously all those arenas, it's not like arenas here. Those arenas are often owned by sports teams. They're going to prioritize their games, their seasons. That's all going to shift around. I think it's going to be I think touring in the US is going to be really volatile and mad for a good year or so. Probably more. Probably most of next year, it's going to be really hard to pin down touring in America properly. But I think the rest of the world, I think we're going to get back to normal pretty quickly in the early part of next year. That's what I predict.
My thoughts are pretty similar to Andrew's, to be honest, because I've gone through, I think as many of us have, so many scenarios, just kind of thinking like, right, how would we do? How would I obviously I've not had much on, so I've been thinking about this sort of stuff. Like, like how would you do a normal gig? Like, how would you start a loading in the morning and then do all that? And it's just like, I just don't know how possible. We don't sound a bit bleak without, with social distancing in place and all that sort of stuff. As we were saying, it's definitely workable and a way to adapt, but it's. I'm talking maybe more about the putting it on aspect. I mean, it's more than getting people to actually come and watch and all those things. I mean, that's the end product, isn't it? So, I'm very similar to Andrew. I mean, I don't think it's too viable about a vaccine either.
No,
I mean,
we can't slow down the load-in to allow for social distancing. We get the venue at 6-7 a.m.
Yeah.
And usually on a production of the scale that we're looking at, it's just all hands on deck until doors.
Yeah, totally, which is absolutely great. Yeah.
But there's no sort of, it's not like we're sort of hanging out after lunch for a few hours.
No, I mean, no, definitely, absolutely isn't. But no, sorry, in my slightly garbled way of trying to agree, it's like, I've spent so much time, say April or something, thinking about the concept of doing a European tour, but then go from country to country and different rules and stipulations that might be. I mean, maybe a kind of similar thing to why with local lockdowns at the moment, certain events haven't gone ahead. Like there was the
drive-in shows,
the streets, or something like but that got cancelled on the basis of then local lockdowns came in, such as which is the responsible thing to do, and it's kind of like. And that's the thing, obviously, and we're all thinking about doing this safely and responsibly so we can all get back to doing what we love as a job and what people love coming to do and see. Because, it's about entertaining people and no
one's going to want to come to a gig where they got either when they got to stand that sort of far apart and they have to go through all that, people getting checked on the way in. I just don't.
Yeah.
I think we all now know, we were talking about temperature checks and all these kind of things you might have to do, but I mean, I think that's been proven to not be a particularly reliable way of knowing if someone's got COVID or not anyway. I do think, I'm not saying that we're just going to plow into a normal load-in either in March and April. I still think I can still see us having to wear face masks. I can still see extra checks. I can still see us having a medic on the tour. And us having to have a genuine plan for if someone comes down with this, how do we then isolate that person? How do we have to isolate all the people on their bus, or how's that going to work? Because that's the other thing is, if we get going but someone does get it who wasn't vaccinated for some reason, and how do we deal with the fallout of that we can't just have the entire lighting department put into 2-week isolation during a load-in. That's not going to work. For people's comfort, we're going to want to try and keep people away from the general public as much as possible. So even if we're all vaccinated, and even if the shows are allowed with full capacity, I still think we're going to want to keep people out of public spaces as much as possible for the general protection of everybody. We've been discussing having no front of house at all. So so audio and lighting and video control would all be in effectively what would look a bit like a broadcast truck.
Wow. Okay.
And all cameras would be, robocams of some kind that are in the space, and and then you've one audio guy, with his wireless tablet or whatever, wandering around in some sort of protection, and a lighting person. So someone else in the room to keep an eye on the rig. Like really just having 2 people in the public space and nothing else. So I think that I can really see that happening. I actually discussed that with some of the Shawn Mendes team, and Tom, our front house engineer, thought it was a brilliant idea.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he really did. It was like, great. I can just sit in front of some lovely studio monitors in a really nice air-conditioned space. This sounds fantastic. He was really into it, actually. Yeah. And actually, I've spoken to a couple of people who are actually thinking about doing that kind of thing anyway. I know my good friend of mine, Duncan Snake, who does Harry Styles, was already discussing being out of the space anyway. As he's, not just so he can hear better, but just for general hearing protection of himself and so on. So I think we'll start. Maybe that'll be a thing that I can really see that happening, and also brilliant sell to the promoter as well. I mean, that's some floor space. Just
love it.
Right, I really love the idea. So maybe this will be the beginning of the end of front of house.
That kind of leads us on to we kind of put this out on social media, and we got a few questions. But Viviana SFT on Instagram asked, when live events do kind of eventually return, do you think it's going to be more complicated when it comes to creating a safe space for people to watch their favorite artists and bands?
I honestly don't. I don't think if touring goes back to normal that it will feel that much different. I think you will getting into the venue now post the bombing in Manchester. Obviously, that changed significantly the time it took to get into the venue. That really was the kickoff of everyone going through some sort of metal detector. So that's that really changed how quickly you can get people into a venue. So that changed the end experience for the concert goer. I think there'll be another layer of that. Maybe you've got a vaccine card to check. Maybe at some point there's an instant test possibility.
Sure.
Then maybe there'll be something that you'll have to do to get in. So I feel like by the time that crowd enters the venue, they will feel slightly violated by the time they get in.
Border control trying to get in. Kind of
Yeah, so I think like it'll be like, I'm actually at my seat. That was a real mission. I think that'll feel really different. But I think once you're inside the space, as I said, I think it sort of has to be business as usual at that point. And I think, actually, me and Duncan were talking about this early on. We've been chatting to a couple of health professionals and a couple of doctors on just for some trying to get some insider info. And a brilliant way to transmit COVID is to sing at each other. So that's a bit of a problem. I can generally feel like someone saying no singing. I can see that being discussed. Can we ask the audience not to sing?
The excitement and wonder of a fan who's coming to see again, like maybe a young fan especially, is like, right, now watch this. Look like you're enjoying it, but
you can't sing. You can look like you can't make any noise.
Shawn Mendes on the stage doing his best sort of Joe Frost Super Nanny impression, kneeling down with the audience and saying, "Please don't sing."
Absolutely.
Naughty corner or something.
I guess there's all the you won't be able to invite the audience to sing with you. That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, and
that'd be an odd thing.
That's a real thing for him too. Like he, and for a lot of singers, like not only do they like to get the audience to sing back at them, I think sometimes it's perhaps an excuse to take a bit of a break in the middle of it.
Totally. I mean, God, an Iron Maiden concert could be, the time of it could be maybe cut down by 3/4 if Bruce Dickinson's not asking the crowd to sing.
All of it. They'll be very
scream with me or not.
Fear of the silence rather than fear of the dark.
Yeah. God, yeah. I hadn't even thought about it. That'll be a wholly surreal experience.
Yeah, I do think that in whatever form it takes, that first show that we do in a full arena is going to be a strange experience, I'm sure.
From like an industry standpoint, and as an insiders and stuff, do you think there's going to be too much demand for the industry to deal with when artists just want to go out there when it's safe again? Are there going to be enough supplies for everyone?
Well, yeah,
it's going to be hectic.
There has been some talk about this actually, and I think obviously at the minute every supplier's warehouse is full to the brim with kit, and every roadie's sitting at home twiddling his thumbs. But as we all know from there's one right there, look, and
right.
as we all know, especially during the sort of busy festival season, I know this from trying to, when you're trying to crew multiple shows through the summer, you just feel like there's not enough people to cover all the gigs at once. That's actually quite a nice break from that this summer, actually, sort of scrabbling around to find enough people to do every show that you've got on. But the worry is that there'll be so many tours out at once. Looking at that, that theatres and arenas have just got a show on 7 days a week from March onwards. Where are we going to find all this kit and people to put these shows on? And there's always a little collection of people on tour, and you feel like, and often they'll be talking like this, that they're like, maybe this is the last one. I'm going to go and, I don't know, buy a farm, or I don't know, make cheese, whatever. Like someone's going to like move on. Like everyone's got their sort of escape plan from touring. It's in the back of their head somewhere. None of us think we're going to tour forever. We've all got a sort of backup plan. Well, maybe I'll go to this. Anyway, what my point being is, maybe during this time, those people who are thinking they're going to knock it on the head and do something else have done that. Gone, all right, maybe this is a sign. I'm going to go and do that other thing I always talked about doing. And maybe that other thing I talked about doing has turned out to be quite successful. We can all think of loads of little industries that have popped up during lockdown that have been really successful for people. And maybe we'll find that not only do we not have enough people to cover all the gigs, that all the people that were working this time last year aren't available to work anymore. So I do think it's a worry. I do think there's going to be a period next year where everyone is going to be, their phone is just going to be off the hook with offers of work, and suppliers are going to just not have enough kit to do every gig. And then you're looking at a position where it's not so bad for the freelance roadie. Fine, you're going to have loads of work. That's kind of the headline there. Okay, that's good news. But for the suppliers, who are all going to be desperate to get kit out on the road, they've been either paying their leases for on kit, and money's just hemorrhaging out the door. They're desperate to get this kit on the road. Great, all my kits now go out on the road, but I could service all these other tours. And then the pressure to buy more kit and extend credit, and it's going to be really tricky. So that's why I'm sort of slightly hoping that people are just going to think, do you know what? Let's keep the size of productions next year sensible. Like that's certainly discussions that we're having, and that's coming from all sorts of positions, not just about the scale of show for the look of it, but just concerns of ticket pricing, and obviously there's going to be a fairly significant downturn in people's finances and so on next year. So like ticket prices are probably going to stay as they are, or might even drop for certain artists. I personally think going out with absurdly large productions is probably not what we're going to see people doing next year either.
No.
I think it'd be sensible as an industry for us to, not put too much pressure on suppliers for the newest, greatest, brand new kit. Let's use what stock people have got. Let's not put that pressure on people to overextend themselves in buying loads of new stuff. People have got, especially in the lighting and video world, where technology is always, everyone's pushing and pushing and pushing. That's what I would encourage people to do. Just let's see what people have got in stock, and let's use it, and let's rent it, and let's keep these companies going.
Do you think around, because that was always maybe one thing that might be even a bit of a separation when you're talking about maybe even management and then the design and the actual production process, but have you found through this time it's been you're maybe talking a bit more and they'd be more susceptible to that kind of suggestion, being like, look, this is the state of the world right now, we do need to go for a small scale back world tour or tour of any kind of sense, right?
And I imagine that most of our design creative teams are going to be very understanding of this situation. I'm more concerned about management understanding that we need to perhaps not aim so high and simplify. But to be honest with you, this has been such a shake-up for everyone. It's been such a reality check.
Yeah.
People's focus, to me, and from management side I've spoken to, people's focus is about keeping everybody safe.
Yeah.
Getting the industry back up and rolling again, getting people back into venues to enjoy concerts, and getting live music, back up and started in a way that's workable and safe for everybody. So
for me, my main income when it comes to source of revenue, job, whatever, that's what they call it. That's what these people call it. It's been so long since I had one. Got no idea. No. It's just through actual touring and being on the road. And I don't, from the way I've progressed, that's just me at the moment, which is great, and that's what I really enjoyed, because I kind of had time when I'm at home, which hasn't been much over the last few years, but that's fine. And then I can really focus on things on the road. And it's still so surreal to think it's not been able to do this, and it still might be a very long way off.
Yeah, it's a long time to expect people who generate their income in this fashion to take off.
Yeah,
and still pay the bills. Loads of great, highly skilled touring professionals who right now are, I don't know, delivering groceries for Tesco's, or
absolutely,
working for Amazon, and those are all totally fine jobs, but these are highly technical, highly skilled people who are just like, right, I've got no work for the foreseeable future, so I need to just do anything to keep some money in the bank. So it's been a real sort of ego reset, I would imagine, for a lot of us to realise that this industry that we do so well out of is being hit as hard as anything else, and there is no current sort of roadmap back to us getting on tour. And that is pretty terrifying, really.
And in terms of, forgive me for asking if it's too personal kind of thing, but how have you been kind of weathering that economic storm for yourself, Duncan? Have you looked for other work, or you just you got much support from the government, or is it a different?
Well, I'll be honest, I've been so grateful, and from last year we were incredibly busy. So I did have a bit of time set aside this year to have as Andrew was saying earlier, a bit more of a relaxed touring period before we kind of get back into more craziness with Shawn Mendes and that sort of stuff. So that was on my radar, obviously quite relaxed compared to what I was hoping. But I've been quite fortunate. I did qualify. Thank you. Okay. Very complicated word, qualify, for the SEISS grant from the government, which was a surprise, but also very welcome. But I know there's so many people who didn't fit into these things, and I kind of feel
a lot of us who sort of back in the day when it was really a good idea to be a limited company and to be VAT registered and all that stuff. I mean, I did that, I don't know, a good 10, 15 years ago, because it had some advantages in doing that then, and that seemed sensible, and I've stayed that way. But for me, it did mean, like a lot of us, I fall into a gap where absolutely there is not really any benefit for us limited company owners who, might pay ourselves a small wage and take most of our money as dividends, which is a totally fine way to run your company. Absolutely. But there's no support for that. So loads of people in my situation who who have been able to get almost no government support, or if they do furlough themselves, the income has been very small. So yeah, it's been really tricky. As I said, I've been ridiculously fortunate this year and feel very blessed that I have been able to continue working, and that 24/7 Productions has supported me through this and kept me busy as as one of the sort of original members of that company. So we all feel very fortunate, and John's been amazing actually. So no, I've got nothing to complain about. But yeah, there's a lot of people in our industry who have the way they structure their companies or their personal finances has left them with almost no support.
Yeah, which is, it's another difficult thing to kind of get your head around, and I'm.
Yeah, is it?
It's
That's
kind of
worry about people
terrible.
getting through to March next year or whenever it is. Most of us might. I remember times in my mid-20s or whatever when I didn't have as many responsibilities, and I don't know, it was probably a bit daft with money back then. And I certainly would never have more than, I don't know, a couple of months in the bag or whatever. And you just sort of go, I just can't imagine what situation I'd be in like there now.
Man.
And I know loads of people in our industry who aren't living, don't have 6 months spare money sitting in the bank. And rightly so. It's not fair. And
no, totally.
It's a very scary time.
It just sees how the effect that'll have on people's mental health when it comes to this. Obviously, just being, just.
I suppose it's creative.
Kind of cause we are.
As well. Yeah.
Yeah.
You need something to keep yourself occupied, and you want something to sort of drive that. And if there's nothing there, then.
Yeah. No, totally. It's. Yeah. Yeah. It's.
Definitely. As I said, as a community, the touring world does prop itself up and support its own and looks after each other well. And to suddenly find yourself at home, isolated from all of that for such an extended period of time, is very difficult for some people, I'm sure.
And have you has the Mendes, because I've heard of certain kind of core kind of touring groups that have actually been in contact quite a lot, and they've been doing the whole Zoom calls just as much as you've been doing the family. Has that been a good support the whole way through?
The Mendes crew, we have a WhatsApp group that has a bit of chatter on it and so on, and done a few calls with a few different people across the Mendes camp, and actually we and Duncan have done a few regular Zoom calls for a few weeks from a bunch of people that used to work on The Wanted, actually, that we as a team have kept quite close. So we did a bit of that, which was quite fun actually to get that little crowd of people together for the first time, virtually face to face for a long time. So there's been a bit of that. I'm sure, like me, at the sort of beginning of lockdown, it seemed there was a quiz and a family hangout. That really was many quizzes. Oof. I didn't do anywhere near as many as you've done, Duncan, I think.
Oh man, I mean, okay.
Here's the hot take on quizzes.
So I love a quiz. It's been one of the great things of this period. I've been able to, really focus in on some actual real quiz shows that, there's been just an incredible glow. It's been like watching Challenge TV, or I've not actually done that because there's been so many. It's just been incredible. But doing an actual quiz, oh man. The problem is, me and my partner, Jen, we're so good at them. With our relative families, we're pretty. I'm going to sugarcoat this. I'm not going to be modest. We won pretty much most of the time. There's not many things I can validly gloat about, but we were great at the quizzes. But it's just like, oh my god,
you're bored of winning.
This is now a chore. Yeah, it's like the fun of the quiz to me has really been.
Well, yes, indeed. So I think, I don't know about anyone else. I'm sure I think you're saying the same, Duncan. That sort of the Zoom community hangout vibes has definitely tailed off massively in my world.
Yeah.
It's like we've all just moved on from that. It was like those artists performing from their homes, sort of crappy Instagram posts or whatever. That was sort of cool for a minute. Everyone's like, these are just a bit rubbish, so let's not do any more of those.
Yeah, oh, no, absolutely.
So I think that's been. I do like it's been. I hope it's been a good reality check for artists who have tried to produce performances from home for themselves and realised that they sort of need people around them to make this stuff sound good and look good, and that's what we're all here for. So maybe that's been another positive of this.
No, absolutely.
I think that was covering most of the bits, to be honest, if that's all right. Just like to say thanks very much for stopping in, and it's always good to kind of like get this side of, get the opinions of people that have been out the road, and because you see so much, don't you, in terms of the regulations coming from the government, and but it's always good to get the kind of input from you guys itself to actually how you think.
Yeah, I mean, we're certainly not the oracle of information, but
no.
I don't think anyone is, but anyway, all I know is that we have to get back to normal at some point. It will happen. I'm feeling confident of it.
Right. Well,
definitely. Nice one.
Andrew, Duncan, thanks so much for your time.
Thanks, guys.
Cheers. Thanks.
See you later.
Thanks very much.
Bye.